welcome. You're watching The Buck Stops Here and I'm Barkha Dutt. On the program today, our special focus will be on Colonel Santosh Mahadik, the martyr of Jammu and Kashmir, whom the entire country is mourning. More on that later in the program. But first, our top political story. The direct dare from Rahul Gandhi, the Congress Vice President, to the Prime Minister. A 56-inch jibe and a dare that the Prime Minister should ask for the government to probe Rahul Gandhi instead of using proxies or chamchas to attack him. These comments in this hit back, of course, coming after Subramanian Swamy's allegations that Rahul Gandhi is shown as a British national in one of the companies that Rahul Gandhi used to run called a Backops. Let's listen in to what Rahul Gandhi had to say.
अलग अलग आरोप मेरे ऊपर उठाए जाते हैं। इतना सा सच नहीं है। मोदी जी आपकी सरकार है, आपके पास एजेंसियां हैं, अब ले इन एजेंसियों को मेरे ऊपर इन्वेस्टिगेशन करो और 6 महीने के अंदर अगर आपको कुछ मिले मुझे बंद कर। मगर ये जो आप कचरा, ये जो आप कचरा, सुनो, ये जो आप कचरा अपने चमचों से मेरे ऊपर फेंकवाते हो, मेरे परिवार के ऊपर आप सालों से फेंक रहे हो। अब आप ऑपोजिशन में नहीं हो, अब आप सरकार में हो। 56 इंच की छाती निकालो, एजेंसियां बनाओ मेरे पीछे और मुझे बंद करो।
So as Rahul Gandhi directly targets the Prime Minister and dares him to start a probe instead of hiding behind what Rahul Gandhi is calling the Prime Minister's chamchas, is this an indication of what we're going to see in the winter session of Parliament? And how do we read the political messaging of the new aggression in the tone of the Congress Vice President? With us on the Buck Stops here from the BJP, Sambit Patra, from the Congress, Tom Vatican. Sambit, let me start by asking you how the BJP sees this dare. Do you think that there is merit in Rahul Gandhi's argument that the government is there, the agencies are there, probe him, instead of making allegations that in fact suggest that Rahul Gandhi is not Indian but British, or was at a point in his life?
Barkha, the simple submission is, why dare? Why not produce the required documents? This is not a BJP versus Congress war. This is a document versus document debate. Has been produced by an eminent personality. It has been produced by Mr. Subramanian Swamy, showing as to how on 3 occasions in United Kingdom, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who owns a company there, or rather used to own a company there till 2009, had produced documents stating that he is a British national. If a question has been asked, if documents have been submitted, rather than daring the government, Mr. Rahul Gandhi should hold a press conference, which the Congress is known for, and produce the documents. What's the problem in this?
I will put that to the Congress in just a moment, but is the substantive allegation, Sambit, of the BJP that Rahul Gandhi at a point in time was a British citizen, or do you believe this to be bad filing, poor documentation? Which is it that the BJP believes?
No. As far as BJP is concerned, I have maintained right from the very beginning. One of the national spokespersons of Bharatiya Janata Party, Meenakshi Lekhi, also had on record stated about 2 days back that it is a document versus document issue, legality versus legality issue. Yes. A set of document has been submitted by an eminent personality, a set of questions have been asked, and these documents, remember Barkha, have not been refuted by the company house in British. In fact, the British companies have agreed to the fact that, well, yes, on various occasions, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has stated that he is a British citizen. So if on 3 or 4 occasions he has done so, any Indian, leave aside Subramanian Swamy or the Bharatiya Janata Party, any Indian has the right to ask this question to Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who is the Vice President of an eminent political party.
I think that's fair, and Tom Vatican. The fact is that in Rahul Gandhi's outburst, while it may be rhetorically great for the Congress worker, is unanswered the substantive question. And the substantive question, as we know, is this: that while in the statement of incorporation of this company that Rahul Gandhi used to run called Backops, in the statement of incorporation he's shown as Indian. However, in the company's returns at 2 different points in time, October 10, 2005 and October 31st, 2006, he is shown as British. Now you have a third set of documents where British is cancelled out, scratched out, and Indian is written by hand. Isn't Rahul Gandhi hiding behind this outburst and not answering the substantive question? How do you explain these documents?
Barkha, the article of association, we know companies are formed in India.
Yes.
is the mother of all documents.
Yes.
Returns and all that are subsidiary documents. In the article of association, if you are mentioned as an Indian citizen, the first page was given by Dr. Subramanya Swamy. And now it is not Bharatiya Janata Party stands, you know, they are very carefully playing it. If they succeed, it is Bharatiya Janata Party. If they fail, it is Subramanya Swamy. Be what it may. That's their strategy.
They seem to have taken the same position as Dr. Swamy.
Now let me come on to this. This single page
and you haven't answered the question. Why did the company return
single page was presented, which has in typing and the correction. This is one document that was presented. Yes. We presented an 18-page document which was categorical, clear and lucid, which said that he is an Indian citizen.
What has happened
now, about returns.
I'll get Sambit in just a second, but quickly
talk. Company has categorically said there is a typo error. Now, it can happen in a clerical level. Somebody in the...
2 years? 2 years? Sambit, a typographical error.
That's what the company says.
Please, Tom, can I answer?
Please do.
Tom began his statement by saying that mother of all documents. Let me submit over here. There's nothing called as mother document.
Article of association, Samit, it's the document which says everything.
Let me complete. I will never interject you. Please don't interject
me.
You began by saying that mother of all documents. I submit humbly that there's nothing called as a mother document and sister concerns. All documents are equally important, especially so when for consecutive 2 years, 2005 and 2006, you mentioned Mr. Rahul Gandhi as a British national. And remember, the 2004 document, which was submitted online, has a hand correction where you cut it off. The British is cut off by hand, and a handwritten note says that he is an Indian. I don't understand as to how an online submission can have a handwritten correction. Please, sir. Thirdly, you can have a typographical error once. If you have so many typographical errors, then naturally please submit the typewriter machine which you use for forensic evaluation. The people of this country want to know what kind of machine does the Congress use. From Sonia Gandhi's English certificate that she got from Cambridge, Mr. Rahul Gandhi's MPhil certificate, now Mr. Rahul Gandhi's nationality. Everything depends on the typing machine more than what the Gandhis want to say. So who are the Gandhis? The Gandhi family or the typing machines?
We will present you half a dozen typewriters which the Bharatiya Janata Party can use for fudging details. You know, the specialization of the dirty works department of the Bharatiya Janata Party is well known. Come on, let's admit this.
Tom,
they have been doing it after the Bihar election.
These are not fudge
very brilliant.
The British authorities have agreed.
The brilliance of Bharatiya Janata Party in fudging figures. We have seen it. I have been a victim of that. I have been a victim. I don't want to go on public record on this. Don't make me open up. Don't make me open up.
Please open up. What are you trying to say?
Please open up.
What are you trying to say? Please open up. Please open up.
I have been accused by the spokesman of the Bharatiya Janata Party of being associated with that episode of when the Prime Minister was the spokesman of the Bharatiya Janata Party. I was accused. I was taken to the CBI office. And what about Tehelka? I had nothing to do with it. And I am making it on public record. On Tehelka, I was accused when I had nothing to do with it. What does an honest man do? What does an honest man do? Unless he declares it openly. Yes, we are challenging you. And that is what Rahul ji has done. Patra, hear the honest man's voice. And if you have any conscience,
Mr. Vadakkar, when the Prime Minister was a spokesperson, you are the ones who are in government.
And I suffered for it.
You are the ones who are in government.
So please, I was summoned by the CBI.
Please
Congress
write an article about all these.
Let's come back to
the stories about Rahul Gandhi. Please come back to the topic.
Sambit, I ask you again, what does the BJP want Rahul Gandhi to specifically answer on these documents? Rahul Gandhi has come out today and said, probe me, you have agencies, investigate me, jail me, do what you want to, but don't field your proxies, don't field your chamchas is the word he uses in Hindi. And he says that, you know, stop, basically he's even taking a 56-inch jibe and saying, where is the 56-inch chest of the Prime Minister?
First and foremost, as far as the word chamcha and proxy is concerned,
Yes.
why a proxy of Bharatiya Janata Party? Any Tom, Dick and Harry of this country can question Rahul Gandhi. He may be the Sahjada of the Congress Party. Sonia Gandhi ji may be the Maharani of the Congress Party, but for common Indians, they are just politicians. No VVIP racism over here. Secondly, as far as the documents that Bharatiya Janata Party wants from Rahul Gandhi, an investigation is concerned. Number one, there are 2 annual returns of the backup company in public domain. The British, where does the question of fudging comes, Barkha? When the British authorities have agreed that these are genuine documents, and you know that, Barkha.
Are you saying the BJP believes that
Let
at
me
a point
complete.
in time Rahul Gandhi was a British citizen?
Let him answer
This
that.
is the substantive question at the heart of this. Do you believe that in 2005 and 2006 or till 2009 when Rahul Gandhi contests his next election, do you believe that in the years between 2004 and 2009, Rahul Gandhi actually took British citizenship?
Barkha, it is not what we believe. It is what the document is yelling and saying. If a document which otherwise is wrong in British would invite punishment for Rahul Gandhi and his company, if that is yelling and saying that Mr. Rahul Gandhi is British, Mr. Rahul Gandhi thinks it is otherwise, then Mr. Rahul Gandhi has the onus of coming out with papers. Mr. Rahul Gandhi should answer this legally, because especially the British authorities have agreed that these are legal documents, these are not fudge documents, and yes,
I think that's
Rahul
a fair
Gandhi
point.
has
Dr.
mentioned
Patra, we
that.
reserve the right to take on the British.
But Tom,
Yeah.
it is absolutely fair that when you are in public life and documents emerge that list you as a British citizen, your company returns 2 years running list you as a British citizen. Now a third set, as we saw in the Indian Express, scratches out that British, puts it by hand as Indian. I mean, it smacks at the very least of the worst kind of incompetence. But Rahul
Incompetence
Gandhi
does not
and the
mean
Congress
criminal.
must, yes, but
No,
you
it
must,
doesn't mean
but you must be able,
criminality
but
into
you
it.
must be able to answer how the vice president of the Congress party is listed as British.
We have made it clear to the rooftops. We have been saying it's nonsense. There has been a typo error. He is an Indian. There be no doubt about it.
How many typo errors?
And point is, he's talking about documents yelling. It's not the documents yelling. It's Swami yelling, Dr. Patra yelling, and Lekhi yelling. Nothing else. The documents were there before. We were supposed to see the coin note. We were supposed to see Lalit Modi coming in. We got nothing. But we got a conned dispensation which got a document which they are going into public domain. This is pure conning of this country.
Sambit Patra, the fact is that you are up after Bihar against a more emboldened, aggressive opposition. That's what I'm reading politically in what's happened today.
Barkha, we may lose many elections. Why we? Anyone may lose election, but no one should shield the truth from coming out. If someone has erred in public life, if a political party's head has done something wrong, then it is my moral duty to come out with papers. It is my moral duty to hold a press conference and let the people of the country know the truth. And equally to this effect, Mr. Rahul Gandhi's duty as the vice president of a tall party of this country is to come out with facts, not with rhetoric. He should immediately hold a press conference, and if he feels that all these are nonsense, as the Congress spokesperson is saying, and as Mr. Rahul Gandhi had torn paper after paper saying that these are nonsense, he should come out with papers and tear the other papers saying all these papers
I
are
think
You
that's a good
nonsense
question.
because
are
these
in
are
power.
the
You
true
have
set
the
of papers I
CBI, you
have.
have the Enforcement Directorate, you have all the powers within the system. Investigate.
I want to answer
Please
this.
do
I
that.
want to answer
Why
this
are you
as well.
asking us to go for a president?
I'll answer that.
We are
Yes,
clear. Our conscience is clear, Dr. Patra.
Let
He
me
is
answer
an
this.
Indian citizen. If you want to investigate, please do. That's the challenge an honest
I'll
man
answer
can
this
make.
very
And he's done
candidly,
it.
Barkha.
And he's proved his point today
Let
in
him
public
respond.
domain.
Let Sambit respond, and then I have some questions for the Congress. Sambit, go ahead.
Tom, was not this the same question that you asked us on National Herald? Was not this the same question you were daring us for Robert Vadra? That if Mr. Robert Vadra has erred, please start an inquiry. Please go after him. If
6
someone has
months
done wrong in
before the
National
details
Herald,
have
go.
come out,
Just a second,
you have
sir.
the Chief
Just
Minister
a
saying
second,
he's
sir. I
guilty.
was not
What
interjecting.
kind of a
Please
trial
allow me
is
to
this?
complete.
If this
Please
is not
allow me to come.
indicative,
Please be
Dr.
tolerant,
Patra,
Tom.
what is?
I know you are on a back foot, but please
We
be
are on
tolerant,
the front
Tom.
foot.
Let
No,
me
but this
complete
question
it.
about Robert Vadra is important, and I was going to come to it. Sambit, I'll allow you.
I will
comment
answer
there,
you all
but I let's bring
questions.
up, in
Allow
fact,
me
what
some-
the Chief
allow
Minister
me
said
some
just
time to
yesterday.
complete
Let's
my
bring that up.
sentence.
Let's bring that up. Sambit, let's go to you. Yeah, Sambit.
Barkha, please allow me to complete
Yes,
my
Sambit,
sentences
please.
at least.
Yes, Sambit.
Yes, I was saying that they were daring us on all those cases, and when those cases were open and when those cases are being investigated, now the Congress is on back foot saying that ye badle ki rajniti hai, this is the politics of revenge. Why shouting in two voices? When we don't investigate, you dare us. When we start investigation as the law should have the course, you start crying foul and saying that, well, ye badle
That's a
ki
fair
rajniti
question.
hai.
Let me take this to
take
Tom.
on
Let me
the
take
Gandhi
this to Tom.
family. Why
Samit,
so?
it's a fair question, and I'm going to take it to Tom. And the question is this: that when Rahul Gandhi says, he didn't just talk about himself. He said, "Mere pure parivar par, this sort of dirt has been thrown at my entire family." Does that parivar include his brother-in-law? Is that a reference to Robert Vadra? Is the Congress taking the position that Robert Vadra is being targeted by what Rahul Gandhi is calling the chamchas of the Prime Minister?
Barka.
Because there's a judicial commission now.
I'm asking you a very simple question.
Yes.
If a judicial inquiry is
Yes.
going on,
Yes.
it has not submitted his report.
Yes.
The Honorable Chief Minister goes in public domain saying he'll put him under, he'll arrest him.
If guilty.
He said he has evidences. I mean, if you watch that statement, he has everything there. The investigation is not completed. And you have a mindset that you have to fix him. You have to fix him, you got high command orders. And you will fix it before the investigation is done.
But, okay,
If this is
I'll
not
ask Samit
vindictive
that.
politics,
But when,
what is, Barka?
but when Rahul says that everyone in my family has been targeted, which is what he said today, that
Which is a reality.
who does he mean? What does he mean? Who
The
was he
entire
refer-
party is under watch if this whole dispensation has set it on us. We are under watch all the time.
Under watch means what? Under surveillance? What does under watch mean? What are you suggesting?
What
are
was
you
the special
suggesting?
cell doing there when he went to Rahul Gandhi's house?
My God,
What are the
Tom,
things? I mean,
we
I
would
don't
never
want
did
to
what
completely
Nehru did
random-
to Subhash Chandra
direction. I'll allow
Bose.
Samit to come in. Samit, go ahead.
Tom, we would never do to you what Subhash Chandra Bose was done by Nehru.
Oh,
Remember,
come on.
be
Now
assured.
you're preaching history.
We are not the same clan.
Dr.
We are not the
Patra,
same clan.
I mean, don't go into history. We'll give you much
What,
more
don't-
history.
don't
of
go into
Dr.
history?
Of Godse's history.
You can trespass anywhere, and I
Why
cannot
not?
quote
On
truths.
Godse, this is only one country, Dr. Patra,
Where does
where
Godse
the
come
father
over
of the
here?
nation is worshipped. And
Anyhow,
Mr.
Barkha, can I
Godse
come
is
in?
also
Yeah.
given.
Yeah, I'll
on
allow
Robert
Samit
Vadra,
to
can I come
This
in?
is what
No,
you are
Tom,
talking
you
about.
have taken this into all kinds of directions
But
now.
he started
We have
it.
reached Godse, we have reached Mahatma Gandhi,
Subhash Chandra Bose.
we have now reached some allegation of surveillance. The substantive question is there are two documents with Mr. Gandhi is shown as British. You say it's a typographical error. I say
Not me, the company.
Okay, when Rahul Gandhi had his outburst against the Prime Minister today, why did he just not say that? Why did he just not say that I've looked into it and there was a typographical error? Instead, he's jibing at Mr. Modi. Fair tools of politics, but it was just rhetoric. He wasn't answering the substantive allegation made by the BJP.
There are lawyers and other people who are looking after the details.
Okay, Samit.
We'll give it to them.
Samit.
Dr.
I have
Patra
a-
can be
look,
responsible.
I'll read out a
Give
very
him tons of
I will
papers.
Samit,
read out a
Samit.
very important
Yes.
portion from the letter that was submitted by the British authorities.
Yes.
Ideally, a client should thoroughly check all the documents filed on their behalf, but my experience suggestion in whatever it is, ideally the client, that is Mr. Rahul Gandhi, should have checked the documents on his nationality particularly before it is being submitted. So even if it was a typographical error as suggested by the Congress party, did
By the
Mr.
company.
Rahul Gandhi not check the paper? By the company, the 65% is director of the company.
But there's a
Mr. Tom
company,
Varadkar
no?
was-
But the
was
company
Mr.
is Rahul Gandhi's
The
company.
company is
The
who's other
company is
parties?
Rahul Gandhi,
There
sir.
are
It is
people in the
synonymous.
company. He's not going to draft the
Arey
entire
Baba, the annual
filing
return is being filed by
Dr.
the director of the
Patra,
company,
let me tell you
Mr. Rahul
something about
Gandhi.
Commerce, unlike
Can I-
medicine,
please, can
it
I have
involves
some-
a lot of
please, can I
chartered
have some
accountants, there are
uninterrupted-
accountants who do
Can
the job.
I have some
Dr.
uninterrupted
Patra,
time?
please
I was not
understand, this
interrupting
company
you.
is not something
Okay, let
you
Dr.
draft-
Patra speak.
You draft
Let
the
Samit
entire
speak.
thing.
What is
Samit,
this?
Samit, make your point.
Can I please complete?
Yes.
See, it has been submitted that any documentation, and as important as these, if these are being submitted, the client, that is the director of the company, has to go through it before it is being submitted. Naturally, Mr. Rahul Gandhi must have gone through it, and today when caught, they are crying typographical error.
But Sambit-
Secondly, as far as Robert Vadra,
Yes, you didn't
as far as
respond
Robert
to
Vadra
the
is
you didn't
concerned.
respond to
I
Tom's
am.
point
I
that
am
inquiry
going to.
is being preempted by the Chief Minister of Haryana. That is the charge from the
I'm
Congress.
going to tell that. I'm going to answer that. I don't want to run away from any question. Number one, as far as Robert Vadra is concerned, though we all know that Robert Vadra has erred and the law will catch up with him, but if we at all meant to do what you are all suggesting, that put him behind bars by revenge ki rajniti, then we would have done it the very first day we came into government. We would not have waited for all these things to unfold and happen, as the Congress is suggesting.
Enforcement Directorate case was closed on the National Herald case. It was reopened.
Can
If
I
this
please
is not
complete?
vendetta, what is?
Please,
I don't know the
please,
dictionary
please.
meaning of vendetta. You close
What
a
is Rahul
case,
Gandhi daring? Rahul
enforcement
Gandhi is
directorate
daring
closes the-
investigate. Is
enforcement
not Mr.
directorate
Rahul Gandhi
closes the
daring
national
investigation?
case,
When we
and
investigate,
if
why
it is
when we are
reopened,
investigating,
what
why
is
are you
it
crying
called,
foul,
Dr.
Mr. Tom
Batra?
Badakan?
If this is not
At
called
one end, you are,
Okay,
you
one
are
at a
crying
time.
to investigate.
One at a
You are
time.
daring
I'll
to
allow both of you
investigate.
closing
and
comments.
when we investigate,
Sambit.
you are crying foul.
Okay,
You are on
one
back foot
minute.
today,
Both of
Mr.
you will
Tom
get closing comments. Tom Vadakan, the fact is, by shouting at the Prime Minister as Rahul Gandhi has done today, or as you are doing it, Sambit Patra, the substantive question still remains. Why is Rahul Gandhi playing victim? When you heard Rahul Gandhi today, one way of looking at it was he was being combative. Another way of looking at it was that he was positioning himself as at the receiving end, he and his family, of what he called dirt being thrown at them.
Barka, when you question the very credibility of a human being, that is being an Indian citizen,
But
what
isn't
is
the
your
Congress,
emotional
but doesn't
take?
the Congress
Nick,
also question the credibility of the Prime Minister every day? That's politics.
We have not questioned
That's
his
politics.
DNA. We have not questioned his citizenship. We have not questioned. This is the very basis of your existence in India. If that is questioned, how will an honest man react?
Sambit.
And if they don't
And Sambit,
understand
that takes me back to the question where I started. Is the BJP allegation that Rahul Gandhi was British for a while in his life?
It is, see, it is not
Say so if you have
typographical
the.
error.
Say that
The
on
Gan-
public domain.
Please, can I, what is this, Barkha? Why is Mr. Tom Badakan
Yeah,
so
okay, Sambit,
hyperactive
make your
today?
point. Make your point.
Yes. Number one, it is not a typographical error. From Sonia Gandhi till Rahul Gandhi, every day they cannot make typographical error. The intention is in error. Error of intention. And secondly, the Gandhi family is an error in Indian politics gradually, day after day, through National Herald case, through Robert Vadra's case, and today through the citizenship case. All these things are coming out of the cupboard. The skeletons are tumbling out of the cupboard.
16
And
months
the day is not far.
of
when the people will
intolerance, that's
realize
what India has
the
got.
biggest error of the
16
Indian politics
months of
is Gandhi
intolerance.
clan.
This country is seeing 16 months of intolerance.
They have
undeclared emergency.
They have now
and
run away to
an
intolerance
NRI
debate.
Prime Minister.
Because
When
he's
you
unable
talk
to
about
face us in
Sonia
this
Ji, you watch
substantial
out
debate,
that
he
you
runs
will
to the
get it
intolerance
back.
debate.
It's an
My
NRI
God.
Prime Minister who's not bothered about economic
Okay,
Now,
closing comments.
not bothered
NRI
about
Prime
Closing
Minister,
comments,
this is all
30
they have
seconds
to
to
say.
both of you. 30 seconds to both of you closing comments. Here's the point, Tom. Is the Congress trying to re-establish its political relevance, which at the moment is being shrunk down even by regional parties like a Nitish Kumar victory in Bihar, for example, where the Congress did well, but many people believe riding on the back of a Nitish and Lalu. Are you trying to restore your political relevance with this kind of rhetoric from Rahul Gandhi that gets you the headlines, which you may not get otherwise?
Barka, tell me we invited it. When I come around and tell you you are a British citizen, how are you going to take it? You're not going to take it sitting down.
Okay.
Your patriotism is challenged, your nationalism is challenged.
Last 20 seconds.
And what do you
Sambit.
do?
Sambit, 20 seconds, we have to close. 20 seconds.
See, the one, yes, you don't shout and howl if you have the right papers in your hand. Because a simple show of papers would solve all the issue and everything would come to rest.
Okay, we will
that
leave
you
it-
are shouting, howling, crying means that you don't have the papers in your hand.
We will leave it here. Sambit Patra, Tom Vadakan, what I can say is that the way you two are fighting today gives us a very clear sense of what the winter session of Parliament is going to be like. We leave it there. Sambit and Tom, thank you so much for joining us on The Buck Stops Here. Moving on now to our other big story on The Buck Stops Here tonight. A country mourns our hero, Colonel Santosh Mahadik, martyred in an encounter with militants in Jammu and Kashmir. Today, the Defence Minister led the country in bidding a final farewell. So as the nation mourns the martyrdom of Colonel Mahadik, the big question before the country today is whether we are seeing a new phase, a new dangerous phase of militancy in the Kashmir Valley. Let's go straight across to Srinagar, where the General Officer Commanding of the 15 Corps, the man in charge of the Kashmir Valley, General Dua, is with us. Sir, let me start by asking you first to talk a little bit about Colonel Mahadik. We have seen this year that commanding officers are leading from the front and paying with their lives. That is the price our force is having to pay. But this is, of course, one of the finer traditions and the finest traditions of our military, that our senior officers do lead from the front. So talk a little bit about Santosh first.
Colonel Santosh Mahadik was a courageous officer, a thorough gentleman and a true commando. He always led his men by personal example. He's been in command of this unit for over 1 year, and in every operation he's been leading from the front. In this operation too, when his group came under heavy fire, in order to draw the fire away from his buddies, he personally maneuvered to a flank and fired upon the terrorists. And it is in this encounter that he paid the ultimate sacrifice.
And, sir, he came from an extraordinarily modest background. His father used to supply milk, and yet, he's somebody who obviously came literally for the love of the country and the love of the military. So, personally, tell us more about him, his background, why he was drawn to the military. It's an inspiring story.
That's right, Burqa. As you said, and we've been hearing it on news over the last couple of days, he came from a very modest background, studied in a Sainik school. We've heard from his batchmates and course-mates talk about it. What actually drew him to the army was this spirit of adventure, the love for the motherland, and a daredevilry beyond parallel. His friends and course-mates also remember him in all fields of life as someone who always wanted to be ahead. And as one of his course-mates put it, he was bound to go this way with a bullet in the chest. You asked me...
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
You asked me that in the Indian Army, the officers always lead from the front. This is the second commanding officer we've lost in the valley this year. That's right. Indian Army always has its leaders leading from the front. Whether it was Kargil, and you covered that extensively yourself, the officer-to-man casualty ratio is amongst the highest in the world. So whether it was Kargil or in the counter-terrorism or CI operations anywhere in the valley or in the northeast, you find officers leading from the front.
Absolutely.
You are right that we pay a heavy, you're right to say we pay a heavy price. But then we are steeped in this tradition not only by our training, but also by the fact that Indian Army soldier is willing to give his best, is willing to give up his life for the country, provided he is well led. And nothing more motivating for a soldier than to have his officers, including his commanding officer, lead from the front.
Sir, let me ask you, are you worried as the GOC that we are seeing a new dangerous phase of militancy in the valley that we have not seen before? I've been reporting from Kashmir for 2 decades. This started as a homegrown insurgency. It then became almost all about foreign militants of the Lashkar and the Jaish. And now we are back to, especially in areas like South Kashmir, seeing young, educated men taking to militancy. You've seen the Burhan Wani videos. He's the son of a high school principal. How do you assess this new phase of militancy that Colonel Mahadik and others, have been fighting?
You're right. In the past 2 decades, we've seen these ups and downs. But in the recent years, as you yourself brought out, that firstly, the numbers of militancy are down now. Yes. They were never so low in the valley. We have just a little over 200 militants in the valley. Our counter-infiltration grid, a multi-tiered grid that is in place, is so effective that they are unable to infiltrate despite numerous attempts. Yes. So they've started resorting, the Nexus has started resorting to recruitment in the valley. Just like they can't infiltrate, they are unable to exfiltrate. So they just give them some basic training in the valley itself, and thereafter these boys, these young children, are actually out as terrorists while they are not fully trained for any such issues. You spoke about Burhan Wani. Now today, to grab media attention, since these boys are not well trained, they are taking advantage of the social media. Today you upload a catchy video and it is picked up by the media. But all I'd like to say is that these boys today who are getting pushed into militancy, we sometimes feel bad in an encounter when somebody is killed, when he's joined militancy just 3 months ago or 7 months ago or just 1 year ago, and they are being pushed to operate against the security forces.
Yes.
So all in all, I would say that these boys are actually our own misguided youth. They are not foreign terrorists. They are our own misguided youth in the valley, and we need to find ways to get them back to the mainstream.
I'm so glad you said that, because in the end, you know, when your own people, when our own people, as you said, are doing this, we have to in the end look for political solutions as well to get them back into the mainstream. One last question, sir. The Islamic State is what the world is talking about after Paris. We have seen incidents of a few ISIS flags go up in the valley. What is the assessment? Is there a serious danger that the ISIS could actually entangle young men from the Kashmir Valley? So far, according to my information, there's just one reported case, and that too is not fully confirmed, of somebody having gone from Kashmir who's on the ISIS watch in India. How do you see the ISIS threat or impact or influence in the state?
First of all, a few flag-waving incidents that we've seen in the recent past, personally I don't see them being an indicative of the ISIS influence in the valley, so to say. Yeah. But yes, there is a concern. There are some people over here who are perhaps getting in touch online with organizations like ISIS. We are monitoring this situation very closely. We are monitoring the situation closely in concert with the intelligence agencies.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us from Srinagar.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhagat.
Modi.
Stadium.
You think of stadiums?
I think of stadiums. I think of Modi, and I immediately think roaring crowds, a crazy rock star scene. I mean, he's a fascinating figure.
She is one of the most celebrated names in global media, been associated with big ticket brands like Tatler, Vanity Fair, New Yorker, The Daily Beast. And now, of course, her current passion is the Women in the World Summit, which Tina Brown has brought to India for the very first time. It is my pleasure to welcome Tina on the Buck Stops here.
Wonderful.
And there is so much to talk to you about, and unfortunately so little time, that I've devised a little formula which I think will help us navigate all the things we want to talk about. So I'm going to give you one word, and I want you to answer with the one thing that comes in your head when you hear that word, and then we'll deep dive into it. So of course we have to start with, I think, what's got the world's attention. And my first word to you is Paris.
Burning. Paris is burning. And the story that I think is underplayed right now about Paris is the Saudi influence that has promulgated so much fanaticism in the Molenbeek area of Belgium where these attacks have happened. Because that is not Paris, but of course the Belgium was where the root of the attack was. And the Saudis have gone in there with these mosques. They went in there about 20 years ago, they opened all these mosques, and it's from there that this radicalism has spread.
I'm so glad you brought up Saudi Arabia because, you know, in India especially, there is a counter narrative to the Western narrative, and that counter narrative is the West is all in a froth over what's happened in Paris, and understandably so. But then, why is there such a close alliance between the United States of America and Saudi Arabia? And what does this phrase "war on terror" mean if those kind of alliances continue? And I'm just wondering if domestic pressure is building up in the US, in the United Kingdom, in the West against Saudi Arabia, or does oil rule?
Well, I still think that oil rules in the public space, but I think there's a kind of boiling beginning about Saudi, because somehow the image of Obama and all of them showing up at that funeral of King Abdullah, when they're the ones who are exporting all this Wahhabi Islamic fanaticism, it's beginning to rankle in America now, and I think you're going to see this upsurge finally happening.
And you think policy towards Saudi Arabia could change?
It has to change.
You know, one of the things that Indians remarked on when President Obama was here, one of his speeches reinforced the need for India to uphold diversity, and no disagreement with that. But then he went from here to Saudi Arabia, and of course it didn't say very much there at all.
It said nothing, and actually it was obscene. I thought it was obscene. When I saw those photographs, I felt enraged, because they are to me they're one of the big culprits of the current miseries of our world.
Which part struck you as obscene?
What struck me as obscene was the sight of our president and all of the big cheeses in the world lining up for this funeral of King Abdullah, when, frankly, the policy with Saudi has been one of the biggest problems. It struck me as obscene.
So let me take you to the next word, the Islamic State.
Oh, a death cult. A death cult. And what really distresses me about it is the ease with which these 27, 26-year-olds are blowing themselves up. How desperate can you be? How absolutely toxic must your internal misery and disaffection be that you are willing to put on a suicide vest and blow yourself up? When I read there was a young woman who blew herself up in the crackdown, the raid that happened just the other day, I asked myself who this young woman was and how it is that she could have wound up in that apartment with those terror merchants blowing herself up.
Why is it, you think, that in countries of Europe, compared to, let's say, a country like India, why are there so many more men and even women on occasion willing to fight with the Islamic State when these were meant to be classically, especially in the Western stereotype of India, the more modern societies? We don't have, at least so far, that kind of draw by the ISIS.
It is absolutely fascinating because there is so much hardship in India in terms of people who are totally disenfranchised. You would think that terrorism would take more of a hold here. But I think it is the juxtaposition of the affluence and the opportunities of the West and the absolute disaffection of the unassimilated immigrants that have poured in the last 25, 30 years, more and more and more, who have never felt really part of that society. And these second-generation immigrants are deeply, deeply alienated. And how alienated, we didn't realize until now. But that is what makes it so sinister, because they're actually homegrown. And it is so hard to know what to do about that. How do you bomb your own suburbs?
Yeah, and one of the raging debates in India right now, and some of our politicians are actually in the headlines for all the wrong reasons because of this, because some of them have argued that it's not enough to say what happened in Paris was terrible, that the Islamic State is evil. There has to be a kind of understanding of the lack of integration in these societies that you speak of. But there are others who are saying there has to, this is not the time for ifs and buts, this is not the time for explanations, this is the time only for unequivocal condemnation. Which side of the debate do you weigh in on?
Well, what I see is that you cannot bomb this problem away. That is the problem. You cannot bomb the problem away. So we have to engage in the social issues that surround it.
Cannot bomb the problem away.
No, you cannot bomb the problem away.
So you don't think these airstrikes or a more militaristic response is what's needed right now?
Well, the problem is you've got to respond, because what you cannot do is just sit there and say, let's work out your social problems. But there has to be now a big global dialogue about what we're going to actually do. Get our acts together and decide, for instance, who is the enemy. Like in Syria, one of the problems is everybody's arguing about really who is the enemy. I mean, the Russians consider, that Assad is their ally. And yet, Obama feels that unless Assad goes, we don't want to collaborate. So at the same time, you have to decide first who the enemy is, get our acts together, and then figure out what can we do about this alienation of this whole generation. It is just a problem that can't be solved simply by violence.
Obama's big legacy moment was, of course, a deal with Iran. But do you think he's completely misread the danger of the Islamic State? Just hours before this attack or a day before this attack, you said the Islamic State had been contained. And you've got Hillary now jumping into that argument and saying you can't contain the ISIS, you have to destroy it.
Well, I think he deeply underestimated. And actually, I have to say that I think that Obama did not pay enough attention when they came out of it, when America came out of Iraq. Because it was like, America wanted to declare the war in Iraq is over, we're out of Iraq. Attention, please, you can just switch. That is a disaster, because by taking the attention away from what was going to happen after America came out of Iraq, it's created the ISIS state. I mean, it is America really that has tremendously contributed to the rise of ISIS, alas. And then not going into Syria when the line was drawn in the sand, who knows what would have happened. Yeah. And I am actually sympathetic with him in that regard. Everybody can say, well, if we'd just gone into Syria when we said we were going to, ISIS would not have got hold. We don't really know. The alternative could have been we were suddenly ensnared in another morass with Americans getting killed. So I don't envy his choices, but I have to say that I think neglect and American ADD has been a big contributor to our problems.
Attention deficit disorder on the ISIS. My next word, refugees.
Victims. We keep forgetting now in this current turmoil, they are fleeing ISIS. I mean, they are fleeing terrible, disastrous acts of war and horror. And the fact that we are now in the middle of this current Paris situation must not allow us to forget that these people are fleeing this kind of violence themselves. And the whole notion that it's just economic migrants, this is just people, who are trying to get away from things that it's easy for them to tolerate, is really, really unfair, because many of them have come from such privation. We cannot forget that they are victims.
But the pressure is going to come from the right of centre parties in all of these countries, saying that terrorists could come embedded in this sort of wave of refugees that's knocking down the doors of Europe and Canada and the United States.
That is certainly true, but at the same time, most of those guys who were, who did the Paris attack, I mean, they were collaborating with people who are homegrown, who are actually French citizens. Yeah. So it's not true to say that it's all coming with refugees. It isn't. I think the bigger threat is from the homegrown.
Do you believe that kind of seeing the refugees as victims is a policy that will prevail, or do you believe that there will be now serious pressure in the West to alter the policy?
Well, sadly, I don't think it will prevail. I think that the overarching popularity is going to be to say enough of the refugees. I mean, certainly Paul Ryan, the new Republican speaker, has already come out and said we shouldn't even take the ones we've committed to take. So you're seeing it a very, very big turnaround. And I do actually fear for Angela Merkel, because she has so staked her whole position on her welcome of the refugees, this extraordinary act that she had, this humanitarian outreach. Alas, I mean, it's going to put her in tremendous political difficulty now, I think.
Yeah. Next word, Trump.
Cartoon.
Cartoon. Except that, look at his numbers.
I know, his numbers are amazing, but it is ridiculous that he's where he is, and it's really only about the vacuum of the Republican Party right now. What is interesting about Trump, though, is he has, in a sense, been useful, because he's sort of obliterated so many other people in the Republican Party at this point, that it's been a kind of like a truth serum for all of them, because when he turns around and says to Jeb Bush, who was supposed to be the entitled, enthroned next member of the Bush family to get to the presidency, he's low energy, he has nothing to say. He's right, actually. It was sort of the emperor's new clothes. So there are times when he calls it, and it's true. And people go, you know what, he's right. And because he can just gobble up all the oxygen on TV, I mean, hardly anybody's on television except Donald Trump. He's found a way to just...
But is he on TV all the time because he's outrageous?
Yes, because he's so unpredictable. People love his unpredictability. They have no idea what he's going to say next. I don't think he knows what he's going to say next.
But, why is he, or how would you explain the phenomenon of why he's popular?
I think we live now completely in a reality show culture. I mean, he's just the male version of the Kardashians. He's what people understand and know. I also think there's a great, lack of favor now for established politicians. There's a real desire to embrace the unconventional, never done it before kind of politician, because there's a disgust with Congress, because it's gridlocked, because nothing gets done, because it's seen to be a completely hopeless institution. People want to turn to, they think, okay, here's Trump, can do, entrepreneur, he can fix it. He keeps saying...
But he's hardly anti-establishment or subaltern. I mean, he's a corporate establishment guy.
Yes, but he plays it as if he's Mr., out from, Mr. Bootstraps, which is extraordinary, because of course he isn't.
Could he be president?
He could be the nominee. I don't think he can be president, but he could be the nominee.
So my next word, Hillary.
Pantsuit.
Come on, we can do better than that for Hillary.
Well, no, but okay, she's a purpose-built pantsuit. The woman is, I mean, look at her strength. I mean, you have to say, and this is what is so great about this election, actually, because as you see all the flaming out on the Republican side, all the antics and the clowns, Hillary just powers on. You know, she had a terrible summer.
Yeah.
She was rusty.
Yeah.
No doubt that she was rusty. The email scandal came out of left field, and she did not handle it well. She actually handled it like a complete amateur, as if she'd never been in politics before. She was stumbling around. I really believe she was out of practice, but she has now got her groove back. And she came into that the first debate in the fall, and she just aced it. And she was back to being Hillary, well-informed, seasoned, grasp of the issues. And then she sat there for 11 hours being grilled in the hearings about the Benghazi embassy.
Yeah.
11 hours. I mean, that is a long time. Not put a foot wrong, completely answered every question sanely, pragmatically, never lost her temper, and she just got her groove back. She was extraordinary. I also think that in this period of the Paris attacks, everyone is going to think, wait a minute, we don't want one of these clowns, these antic people, these crazy outsiders. This expresses our rage. It's like there's a kind of anger management issue going on right now with the sort of Republican Party.
Yeah.
But actually, when real things happen, people start to think, well, actually, I want someone who does know, you know, what the hell's going on in all of these parts of the world.
And
Hillary
she
knows
seems like
it.
a solid pair of
She
hands.
seems like a solid pair of hands. She seems like a person who understands how to answer the call in the middle
And
of the
yet
night.
you wrote at one point that you didn't think she should run.
Well, I feel she could have had her post-presidency without the presidency.
Yeah.
And all the candy now is the post-presidency. That's when you can actually do something in the world, when you're out of there. Because when you're in there, you're so gridlocked. But I was being facetious, actually, because I think it'd be a bad thing for the United States if she didn't run. In fact, if she didn't run now, the Democrats, there's no one else in the bench.
Who's a bigger brand today, Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton?
Well, no one has the magic of Bill. I mean, when he comes into the room, he can just, and he has to stay in the background now because he knows, everybody knows, if he comes in the room, everybody
But
else
is he good
evaporates.
at staying in the background?
Well, that's the fun part. That makes their presidency, it could be enormous fun because the big dog cannot be kept in his kennel. You know, in the end, he's going to come barking out of there somehow because he can't help himself. He's a superstar. He's a rock star.
Is Hillary's gender an advantage or a disadvantage?
I think it's been a disadvantage for her
Really?
in that, yes, I think that America would much rather, they elected an African American before they would elect a woman. And that was bitter for her because it was like she felt that was her time, that was her moment. I think it's very difficult for her, but I think now there is a sense, come on, we've never had a woman. This is insane. You know, there even, and every young
And the
woman
rest of us in
feels-
this part of the world just don't get it.
just don't get it, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that has built up. And I think there is an admiration just for her toughness. You know, the woman is tough.
Yeah. Next word, Modi.
Modi. Stadium.
You think of stadiums?
I think of stadiums. I think of Modi, and I immediately think roaring crowds, you know, a crazy rock star scene. I mean, he's a fascinating figure. I mean, I do think that when he took over, I kind of wondered whether he would become like, you know, the Prime Minister of Turkey, and who knows whether he will go in that direction, really. But he's, you know, I mean, the point about him is, you know, he is a kick-starter, I have to say that. And people have made people fascinated by India again. You know, he is a massive global star. So from the point of view of the outside world, for us looking in, it has made India very, very interesting to people outside. And when he came to the United States, you know, people were lining up to meet him. He went to Silicon Valley and he was a rock star in Silicon Valley. So, you know, that wouldn't have been true in the past.
And is that unusual to watch, to get a sort of a politician coming in from another country and getting these rousing crowds?
Absolutely. I mean, it's unheard of, actually. I mean, America is deeply uninterested in the rest of the world, really. I mean, it can hardly get itself up to sort of, you know, be interested in anything outside its own town. But I mean, so Modi is really a phenomenon.
Next word, India.
India. Cauldron. Wonderful boiling cauldron of democracy. You know, what I love about India is the mouthiness, you know, of Indians. You know, the crazy debate, the roiling discussion, the vibrant intellectual world of print and media and discussion, and it's so
Voluble?
voluble and vivid, and I love that, as someone who loves debate and energy, and I love that about India, and I love the way Indians don't want to be pushed around by anybody. I mean, they suddenly go and vote in some crazy direction, and they're just asserting their pluralness, their democracy. It's like, we have a mind of our own. It's the most informed electorate, really.
What has surprised you most about India?
Oh, how many Indias there are. That's what surprised me. Just when I think I'm beginning to slightly get a handle on India, I realize that there's just every region is so wildly different, and there's so much to see, and I'm so burning to see all of it. I have a pile of books about it. I'm an obsessive reader about India. I was hearing last night about a biography of Mayawati. I really want to read about Mayawati now. There's so much that I don't know and want to know.
Next word, equality.
Elusive.
Still elusive?
Still elusive. And certainly between the sexes, just when you think it's all happening and working, there's a constant need to be vigilant and a constant need to push back all the time on encroachments into a desire to push certainly women down again. We've seen a very bad couple of years really where women have been pushed back into aggression just when you think they're making strides. And I fear for women like the women in Afghanistan because they've made their gains in 10 years, and are they going to be pushed right back when the Americans finally leave in 2017? And even in the United States, we have seen a really big conservative push to end their rights to family planning and so forth, and it's just remarkable. You realize freedoms are never won, they have to be constantly fought for.
And one of the points you're making is that the gender conversation is a global one, right? It's not the West looking in at India telling us how we should be equal.
Not at all. I think the global conversation is the one that we like to have at Women in the World. That's why we do it, because we feel there's so much to learn from each other's cultures. For instance, raising families, is such a problematic issue in the West because we don't have the family structures in Southeast Asia. So that is a place where I think Indian women are much blessed, actually, because they do have that support system, most of them, that we don't have, for instance, in the West.
I think this conversation is a very much a work in progress. My next word, beauty.
Beauty. Changing, ever changing. The great thing about now is that I think there is beginning to be a kind of a repudiation of the old, certain kinds of stereotyping looks, the beauty queen kind of looks. You're seeing all kinds of different women being celebrated now. For instance, casting agencies and model agencies are understanding they want to see women, with strange noses and freckles and hair and they can still be considered,
flesh too.
And some flesh too. And they could, not that much flesh.
Even now,
unfortunately, flesh is always still an illusion. We like to think that. But there is a feeling, I think, that there's a new beauty platform, in a sense, starting, in which women can start to feel beautiful when they're not conventional.
Last word, Tina. How do you see yourself?
Watch out.
Watch out. Yeah. How do you see yourself?
A work in progress, a constant, ferment of recreations. I've had many careers and many different creative enterprises.
What makes you tick?
Well, I'm a bad steward. I love the act of reinvention and the new, the challenge. Of creating something from scratch. I'm not great at sort of once it's done, sticking around and sort of. Which is a fault, actually. I mean, it's a good idea.
You like your adrenaline fix, basically.
Yeah, I love it.
Hope you have a great stay in India.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina.
Thank you.
Thank you.